I think A.O. brought an aspect of you don't have to be a guy out there rolling around on the ground. You know, he brought real basketball.
The kids want to see, man, throw it through his legs and make it. That's what it is right now. That's what's paying everybody.
He supposed to be starting point guard in the NBA, hands down.
His flair, his finesse.
They weren't just supposed to change the game, they were supposed to redefine it. No NBA draft, no NCAA exposure, no fancy facilities or TV contracts, just a mixtape, a blacktop, crowd, and a ball. In the early 2000s, the AND1 mixtape tour exploded into a cultural phenomenon, highlighting streetball players who were more than just entertainers. They were heroes of the underground, revolutionaries with a handle and a dream. And for a while, it looked like streetball might replace the NBA as the People's League, or at least eventually we'd get to see how these streetball standouts fared in the NBA. But streetball never did, and the closest players to doing it never changed the game in that way. Looking back, they didn't have to. They still became legends and icons remembered to this day, but it doesn't stop some who remember those times from reflecting on what could have been in another dimension.
That running crossover, you know what I'm saying? I had to steal that from him. Thank you, A.O.
He has broken more ankles than anybody I know.
Before the cameras, before the mixtapes, A.O. was already a legend in Philly. Aaron Owens' nickname A.O. wasn't born into the spotlight. He earned it on the playgrounds, rec centers, and eventually small college hardwood. After high school, he bounced around the basketball map from a few small junior colleges to Henderson State. Wherever there was a chance to hoop, he took it, and everywhere he went, he left a mark. But it wasn't college ball that made him famous, it was street ball, and more specifically, a VHS mixtape passed around like gospel in the early 2000s. A.O. was invited to the AND1 mixtape tour after making noise in the legendary Entertainers Basketball Classic in New York. His court IQ, composure, and charisma caught the eye of the AND1 team, not just as a player, but as a leader. He wasn't a dunker or an ankle breaker like Hot Sauce. He was the conductor, the point guard who kept the show on track when it threatened to turn into chaos. On tour, A.O. played the role of Streetball's Chris Paul with extra sauce. He had a slick handle, a deadly pull-up, and a gift for making everyone around him better. More than that, he was the voice of the movement. He'd grab the mic mid-game and hype up the crowd like a battle rapper, then turn around and drop a dime on a no-look pass. But A.O. never made it to the NBA, and not because he wasn't talented enough. Plenty of NBA caliber guards have passed through small schools and made rosters, but he never got a real look. He wasn't flashy enough to go viral, and he wasn't dunking over people on every play. In a movement built on explosive highlights, A.O.'s brilliance was quiet, strategic, and team first, and that doesn't trend. He also came into his prime in his late 20s, older than most NBA rookies. That, combined with the perception that streetball players were undisciplined or one-dimensional, kept scouts away. But A.O. never chased the NBA spotlight. He stayed true to streetball and continued to travel, teach, and mentor. Today, he's one of the most respected OGs in the game, not because he made it to the league, but because he inspired thousands of kids who believed they could. And in many ways, he did make it, just not through the doors the system built.
He really changed the game and kind of revolutionized it and created like a cult following.
If A.O. was the brain of streetball, Hot Sauce was the electricity. You felt him before he even touched the ball. Born Philip Champion in Atlanta, Georgia, Hot Sauce didn't have the polished resume of an AAU prodigy or high school All-American. What he had was raw creativity, elite-level handle, and the type of flair that made people stop in their tracks. He learned his game on the streets, gritty parks, community centers, and anywhere someone dared to check him. That's where the sauce was born. He got his shot with AND1 in the early 2000s when he sent in a homemade tape of his streetball highlights, and it didn't just catch their attention, it changed the company. Hot Sauce debuted on AND1 Mixtape Volume 3, and from that moment, everything shifted. He wasn't just a player, he was the main event. Every move was exaggerated, theatrical, unpredictable, and completely his own. Double crossovers, spins into behind-the-back fakes, fake passes thrown into the air and recovered mid-dribble, stuff that looked more like magic than basketball. But what really sold it was the confidence, the swagger. Hot Sauce didn't just embarrass defenders, he turned them into punchlines. He turned streetball into a cultural wave. People didn't even have to know basketball to know hot sauce. He was on MTV, BET, and rap lyrics and video games. He became bigger than the sport for a moment, a viral star before the internet could even handle it. But with all the fame came a ceiling. He tried to break through it in 2006 when he auditioned for the Atlanta Hawks, his hometown NBA team. He had the skill, but the league never took him seriously. Coaches said he played too wild, too selfish, and too flashy. They said his game didn't translate to a team system, but what they really meant was that he didn't look the part of what they were used to. He didn't come from college ball, he didn't play a traditional style, and maybe most importantly, he didn't fit the mold of the NBA's marketing machine. What's often overlooked is that Hot Sauce really had a jumper, real vision, and real IQ, but the streetball only label stuck to him like glue, and once that happens, the gate to the league doesn't open. So he kept doing what he did best, performing, tours, exhibitions, overseas games, and staying present in the culture. Today, Hot Sauce is still remembered in conversations with Iverson, Kyrie, and Steph, not for their accomplishments, but for their handles. Because for all that came after him, he inspired them all. He didn't need a jersey to change the game. He only needed a ball, a defender, and an audience, and that's exactly what he had.
They take so much from us, and then they sell it and don't give nothing back.
If A.O. was the mind and Hot Sauce the show, Alimoe was the soul. Born Tyrone Evans, but known to the world as the Black Widow, Alimoe was a streetball anomaly. Standing 6'7" with a handle smoother than most point guards, he was a walking contradiction. Big enough to bang in the paint, but agile enough to cross you over at half court. From the courts of Harlem, he developed a game that was all poetry, fluid, unforced, and completely unforgettable. He got his shot with AND1 in the early 2000s after dominating in tournaments like Rucker Park's Entertainers Basketball Classic, where legends are born, not drafted. AND1 didn't need convincing. Alimoe's highlight reel was different. He wasn't about flash for the sake of flash. He had court vision that rivaled guards a foot shorter and a natural feel for the game that made even the most chaotic streetball moments look composed. He joined the mixtape tour and quickly became a fan favorite, not for being loud, but for being undeniably good. He wasn't chasing fame, he wasn't mic'd up like A.O. or putting on a circus like Sauce. Alimoe just played. No ego, no gimmicks, just substance. But behind the scenes, there was always talk. Could he make the league? Could a guy this size with this handle actually play in the NBA? The truth, he never got the chance. Alimoe had some interest from colleges but never played Division I. Academic issues and being locked into the streetball world too early kept him from entering the traditional pipeline. There were no agents making calls for him, no G League to get reps, and by the time the NBA even looked in his direction, he was already labeled a street player. That label stuck, even though his skill set mirrored guys like Lamar Odom or a young Magic Johnson. Then injuries started creeping in. An Achilles tear stripped him of the mobility that made him special. He tried to fight back, but the AND1 era was fading. The world moved on, and he didn't. Alimoe passed away in 2013 at just 37 years old. He never made the NBA, but to those who watched him, he didn't have to. He was a legend exactly where he stood, on the concrete. All in all, A.O. was the mind, Hot Sauce the electricity, and Alimoe the soul. Together, they weren't just stars on a mixtape, they were the mixtape. For a moment, AND1 wasn't just competing with the NBA, it was threatening to replace its cultural relevance. Packed arenas, global tours, viral stardom, before viral existed, and these three led the charge. But none of them made the league, not because they weren't good enough, but because the system never learned how to accept them. They were too raw, too original, and too street. Because of it, when the lights dimmed, they were left in the shadows. But legends like this don't fade. They echo in every crossover, every playground, every kid who learned that greatness doesn't always wear an NBA jersey. This was episode 2 of Supposed to Change the Game, a series about legends who were promised the spotlight and then left in the shadows. If you grew up on AND1, this one's for you. If you remember Hot Sauce's Spin Fake or Alimoe's No Look Time, drop a basketball in the comments. And if there's another player you think should have changed the game, let me know. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.
The people behind the scenes does not know anything about streetball.